welcome to the Lunation situation. This is going to be a very big one. We're going to talk about the eclipse on October 25th of 2022. Welcome to the Twilight Zone, because once we hit the heart of an eclipse season, it means that we are in between two eclipses. Eclipses always come in pair, so October 25th is new moon. It's called a solar eclipse in Scorpio, of course, 2 degrees. And then 2 weeks later, November 8th, we close out the 2-week window between those two eclipses with full moon, which means a lunar eclipse in Taurus. So between these two eclipses, we are in the in-between. We are in that twilight zone where everything's confusing and you have absolutely no idea where this is going. And eclipses, due to their nature, are always about sudden changes and upheaval and chaos, rearranging of situations, of energy, of emotions. So eclipses are very interesting because they are fated. It is divine timing. There's nothing you can do to stop it. There's nothing that is under your control, and you will just have to ride the wave. Just knowing what you can expect due to videos like this and other astrologers, you might be more equipped energetically to face whatever needs to be faced. As I said, it is fated, it is determined, it will need to happen. There's no escaping an eclipse. It's perfectly planned, divinely planned, so it's surrender. You need to go with it and hopefully learn whatever needs to be learned during this eclipse. But it can be heavy, it can be surprising. It can be challenging. That's the nature of eclipses as well. It's just radical change. It has a bit of a nature of the planet of Uranus, you know, which is kind of involved in this solar eclipse because it's opposite the new moon. And Uranus is the big leading character in the upcoming eclipse, November 8th, which is a very heavy one. So this is a very important time, and I really want to take you through it, what we can expect, what it is possibly about, so we have a better understanding once we're in that roller coaster, right? So I want to clear the air first, because I don't want to lie, it can be really heavy. The reason for that is because we have entered the signs of Taurus and Scorpio. Here's some cleaning and cleansing for you. Once the nodes of fate, the North Node and the South Node, enter the signs of Taurus and Scorpio, those signs are one of the most intense polarities in the astrological zodiac. So why? Because, just very briefly, Taurus represents stability and groundedness and earth, and money and possessions, and Scorpio is the intense, clearing, transforming, destabilizing energy. that wants security as well, but we'll go into the details later. But the problem is that Scorpio is also about the financial aspect. It's also about the relational aspect. So the Taurus and Scorpio signs are about finances, about relationships, about our values, about what's important and what matters, about Earth, and underneath the surface of it all as well. And Scorpio, led by Pluto, is one of the most intense sign and planets in the in astrology that we know of. So the fact that this eclipse is a solar new moon, 2 degrees in Scorpio, tells us that it's already intense. But then there are layers upon it. So I'll take you through it. So first, what is a solar eclipse? Well, a solar eclipse is basically a new moon on steroids. It's a powerful version of a new moon. It's more of a, just has a lot of momentum and energy to it because it's an eclipse. So what is a new moon? That is always a beginning of fresh energy, usually, you know, great time to take action or to wish. It's just the start of something, right? What you need to know about eclipses is that they are sudden. That's why they have that nature of Uranus. Something is eclipsed in or something is eclipsed out, just like that. Because this is a solar eclipse, because it's a new moon, it's likely that something will be eclipsed in, more likely than something will be eclipsed out. That is more of a full moon, lunar eclipse energy, right? So, but of course, if there's anything blocking that, what needs to come in, what needs to be eclipsed in, then first something will need to be eclipsed out, right? So that can still happen here. But it's more likely that something will be coming into your life. Something of the nature of Scorpio. So what is Scorpio? Because that's where this eclipse is taking place. Scorpio is a very powerful sign because its ruler is Pluto, the most powerful planet, most powerful energetic effect that it has. It's intense because Scorpio is about whatever's underneath, whatever is not told, the secrets, the mysteries, the deeper, darker layers of life and knowledge. It is the deep trenches of your subconscious mind where psychological patterns are repeating in your life, right? So there's this big psychological aspect to Scorpio. Well, Scorpio is about power, manipulation of it, control, attachment, you know, holding on. But ironically, it's actually about letting go. Something needs to die, and death and rebirth is another scorpionic theme. It's not necessarily something to be scared of course, although Scorpio is also about your fears. But it's that transformation of energy. That's why Scorpio is the alchemist. It is about alchemy, changing an energetic situation, changing emotions, because that is also energy in motion, right? Scorpio is a water sign, so just like Cancer, And Pisces, Scorpio feels a lot as well. There's a high intuition involved and a sort of psychic element to it that it kind of feels the imminence of whatever is going to come. It can feel the destruction before it's happening. It can detect the lies that are told, or detect whatever is not told, or whatever is hidden. So it's also about our shadows, or the collective shadow, what we are not facing, right? It is a very passionate sign. It is a very determinate sign. If Scorpio energy wants something, it will go after it, hold on to it, and make sure that it accomplishes it. It's very resourceful. There is a detective energy about Scorpio, where it's very equipped in discovering and analyzing and going into the depth of whatever they want to find out. So that's all involved in this eclipse, right? But on the downside, it can be very possessive, jealous, obsessive, and as I said, about fears. Fears that can drive us to manipulation and control, to secrecy and destructive ways of behavior. But Scorpio is also about the brutal truth. So it's bringing to light what needs to be faced. And it reveals the secrets that needs to come out, right? And as I said, that intuitive aspect is very big for Scorpio energy. Can also be moody because, it's an emotional sign. So because it feels a lot, just like the other water signs, it's just when you feel a lot, when you tap into energies and emotions, then it can be overwhelming as well. But what you really need to know about Scorpio for this eclipse energy is that it is the energy of needing to let go what doesn't serve you anymore. It's the push to fully transform, to detach, to let things fall away that needs to be fallen away, except that some things need to die off to start something new. That we need to release the blockages, the psychological patterns that are recreating our lives from day to day. So, what is difficult about Scorpio is, like all the water signs, it's about your subconscious mind. And that's where all those psychological patterns are written. That's where they are ingrained. Just like the Scorpio sign, the subconscious mind is a sort of dark, unknown place, but dictates our lives every minute of your day. So understanding your subconscious mind is a difficult thing, but it is necessary if you truly want more control in your life, which is very Scorpionic. See, everything is on a spectrum, right? Control isn't necessarily bad. It's bad when you abuse it. But when you have no control, that's the opposite of it, right? That's not good either. So, since, you know, scientists say that 95% of what we do is driven by our subconscious mind, then it is time to understand what is going on. It is time to dig deep into the roots of your psychology and what is driving you to have repetitive patterns, you know, continual repetitive thought patterns or behavior patterns, or why you attract certain people or energy, why there are always the same subjects going on in your life, right? Or the same blockages. That is very Scorpionic. But I think it's promising that this is a new moon eclipse, right? It's a solar eclipse. So this means that a lot of consciousness from the sun is brought into our lives. The ability to understand much more of that inner darkness of your subconscious mind. Now, I really want to say to you that the subconscious mind isn't dark. It's just unknown to us because we haven't put the light there, right? So once you enlighten yourself and are able to go into your own depth, you'll understand much more about yourself, about life, about how to move forward from here on, because a lot is changing in the world. Let's face that. Astrology tells us, especially next year in 2023 and ongoing, of course, there are so many big changes, like really big changes, such as Pluto going into Aquarius, really big planets changing signs. And obviously we have experienced the last 2 years very challenging things in our lives, and a lot has changed and a lot will change. And I think that's what's so interesting about the eclipses in Taurus and Scorpio, because yeah, they are very difficult, but maybe they're preparing us because more difficult things might be on the horizon, and we need to have a really good toolbox to be handling that change, that transformation, that death, rebirth, and regeneration. And mostly the skill of Scorpio to be able to dig deep, to be able to find out the truth, to use your intuition, to take control of your life, to be powerful in who you are and how you lead your life. These are the toolbox things, the psychological awareness, the alchemical gifts of Scorpio are what we need in that toolbox, right? That high intuition of really knowing what's bullshit and what's real. You really need to weigh that on your intuition scale, because the truth is getting more and more complicated, and it's time to step away from weak behavior and being controlled by our fears, to move away from the lower expression of Scorpio, right? Please also remember that Scorpio is about purging, detoxing, letting go, releasing the outdated, releasing what isn't serving you. So that's very important. It's a big purging and letting go energy of, again, those psychological patterns. So now let's look at what else is involved during this eclipse. Well, I call it a Venusian eclipse because Venus is at the heart of this solar eclipse. That means that, of course, the moon and sun are together. That's what makes a new moon or a solar eclipse. And Venus is right there. Let's see, Venus is there at 2 degrees and 39 minutes. And the eclipse takes place at 2 degrees. So it's a little tiny bit further than the sun and the moon. But it's pretty important that she's here. Venus represents our relationships, our needs to connect. It's about our value systems. It's about pleasure, and it's about what we find important and valuable, and that's why it also represents money, the way you have an income, or how you receive money, how you are with money, and also it's about beauty, art, and aesthetics. Venus is in detachment, as they call in astrology, and that is when Venus is at its opposite sign of where it feels at home. So Venus rules Taurus, and now it's at the opposite side of it in the zodiac circle, and it's in Scorpio. So it's at the opposite side of where it likes to be, and that creates a weird energy. She doesn't feel as secure, both in finances and in relationships. Feels a bit destabilizing, intense, because, you know, there's a serious darkness about Scorpio that she doesn't have at home in Taurus. So that can feel overwhelming for Venus and for us, because it's a personal planet. And it can feel overwhelming, therefore, for our finances, for our relationships, and even what we find beautiful. Also, Scorpio is about intimacy. It's about merging, and therefore it's about sex. So what this could mean is that at the same time that the Scorpio energy wants to release, let go, die off, purge, right? Get rid of blockages, energetic things holding us back. At the same time, it could also, because it's a solar eclipse, because Venus is there, it could also bring in money. Scorpio is more about the money we have with other people. Could also mean loans, taxes, inheritance, or the money you have from your spouse or whatever. So the theme of money is very big. Either a lot is going to be eclipsed out, but due to it being a solar eclipse, something is going to be eclipsed in as well. And I feel it's actually, it has a lot to do with relationships, and maybe relationship patterns or fears that needs to be taken away from our emotional body, so we can welcome in new ways of relating. Venus also represents the female energy, the feminine energy, and feminine isn't related to just gender, obviously. This also means that the feminine energy is very present here. So themes could come up about femininity, or the females in your life, or themes related to females in the collective. And if we look at the ruler, which traditionally is Mars, but once Pluto was discovered, Pluto is now the real ruler of Scorpio. So let's look at Pluto first. Pluto is actually squaring this solar eclipse, and that just adds intensity to the intense. Pluto is, as I said, the ruler of Scorpio. So everything that I said about Scorpio applies for Pluto. Everything about power and the misuse of it, everything about secrecy, bringing things to light, the brutal truth, transformation, fears. Pluto is about whatever's underneath the surface. So it digs deep. And again, it's about those painful patterns in the psyche. Since Pluto is squaring this new moon eclipse, this brings difficulty. This brings tension and confrontation. Pluto is challenging this new moon. It's bringing attention to that Scorpio energy, that release energy, that ending energy, that rebirth energy that needs to take place, says Pluto. Pluto reaffirms that we need to do this. And what is that? It is clearing out lower energies, clearing out patterns and blockages of fear, grief, sorrow, lower emotional expressions, low frequency emotions. And also it is pushing us into manifesting intense trauma release, because that's related to that, right? The idea that you come to a situation where you're done with that story, with that traumatic experience that has ingrained your subconscious mind, and that is why you have been recreating the same patterns. So it's about transforming the inner depth part of yourself to become powerful, because ultimately Pluto wants you to be powerful, but it can drag you through the gutter because it needs to be cleansed, because the gutter is where actually a lot of the jewels to that inner power of yourself lies. And I think it's interesting that the higher expression of Scorpio specifically, but since it's ruled by Pluto, a really high expression of it is true emotional connection, because it's about that merging energy, the alchemical transformation of energy, of mystery. Pluto really wants us to make sure that we change the systems in our psyche. Pluto wants to make sure that we learn self-respect, integrity, that we find our authentic self, because that is powerful. And the Scorpio energy is just clearing out whatever isn't you. It is peeling those onion layers and getting to the core of the truth of who you are. And that is the power. So Pluto is massively pushing this energy. And I'm not going to lie, Pluto square is difficult. So it might not go that easy. But the push is real, and the push is there for a really big reason. So now you know, and now you may know what you can do with that. Scorpio is a water sign, right? Therefore, using the water element might be really beneficial with the solar eclipse. That means taking a bath, reaffirming that the bath water is releasing, blocked emotions or energetics in your body. You can also do this, of course, in the shower. Just consciously working with the water element might be really good during this time. Well, the traditional ruler is Mars, right? So let's very briefly look at Mars. It is widely trining this solar eclipse. Wouldn't really call it a trine. Let's see how far they are apart. 25, 7 degrees apart, which is, it's a big orb for a personal planet. But since it's ruling this solar eclipse, we might have some advantage of looking at that because it's beneficial. A trine is good. A trine is natural flow of energy, support. But if you're more aware of it and use it consciously, might be better. So Mars trining this is really interesting because it means that Mars in Gemini is supporting us. And I think the reason for that is because 5 days after this solar eclipse, and meaning in between, in that twilight zone between the two eclipses, Mars is going to go retrograde. So October 30th, Mars will be retrograde in Gemini until the new year, January 13th, which is a Friday, of course. So I have a whole separate video about Mars retrograde. I'm not going to go into those details. Below this video, you have the link if you want to know more about that. But it's really significant for this solar eclipse because a Mars retrograde means that Mars is slowing down. At this solar eclipse, Mars is actually standing still at 25 degrees, which is where it goes retrograde. So it's still. It's kind of inactive. It's slow, you know. Mars is the planet of action, is our body. In Gemini, it's very interested in many things. It can multitask and be very curious and have a lot of ideas and even be social. But once it goes retrograde or still, like it is now, this means that our body, our energy level, is much more still and slower. So I think the support of Mars here is that we need to take it slow. We need to have rest. We need to go about things So reconsider our thought patterns. Reconsider how our body is involved in the emotional aspect of the Scorpio. You know, reassess the use of energy, how energy is moving through us, how energy is affecting us. There's just a lot of reflection going on when Mars is retrograde. And because it's the planet of our body and our energy and action, it means that right now, it's not really a time for taking a lot of action. It's not a time to go after things. So the helpful thing about Mars being still and going retrograde soon after means that take it slow, take that stillness and even tiredness as a message, something to listen to work with. The slowdown is probably very significant and divinely timed, just as an eclipse is. Because, as I said, so much is going to change, so much is going to transform, and it might go really suddenly because it's eclipses, right? And the eclipse after this one on November 8th is a stinker, as some astrologers call it. It's a really nasty one. And my feeling, I might be wrong, and my theory, therefore, is that truly a lot of things are going to change, like unrecognizable, like upside down. This energy could also be, you know, anything related to what's happening underground. Pluto also is the plutonic bomb. Hopefully that doesn't go off. It's also about earthquakes. It's also about secret orders, secrecy, secret plans, hidden information, about mafia. So anything radioactive, right? But also loans, banks, and Scorpio, as well as Pluto, is the crisis energy. So even though it's a solar eclipse, and I do feel hopeful about that it's bringing something in that is highly necessary, even if it's only awareness, or if it's a person, or money, or not, you know. I think it's just the window between the two eclipses and then afterwards, because eclipses can affect at least 6 months. At least. Or if you have a nodal return like me, can actually affect for the coming 19 years. Or if you have a nodal return coming 9 years. And that is when, you know, currently the North Node is in Taurus, but if your North Node is in Scorpio, then this affects for 9 years. So yeah, I think a lot is going to change. A lot is going to change in our financial systems. You know, it's no news that digital currency is coming in, and I think a lot of old systems are going to die off. And that is also what Pluto in Capricorn represents. It's the end of a system that we have known. It is the end of classic authority. If you hear something snoring, that is my cat, just so that you know. So hold on to your socks. It's going to be a roller coaster, bumpy ride. So, yeah. Try to connect to your emotional level and to your authentic self, and know that this is divine timing. Know that you're not in control, so it's time to surrender. It's time to release. Just letting go of the claws, just lifting the attachment to anything, things, ideas, emotions, past, fears, you know. And once you just lift the claw of holding on to things, then it can be swept away and something can be swept in during this eclipse. So yeah, it's exciting. It's very exciting, and the chances of things changing majorly is a high chance. So see you in the next lunation situation, where we're going to talk about the full moon. Total lunar eclipse means that it's a really strong eclipse at 16 degrees of Taurus. That's going to be a huge eclipse, and this is the window where it's opening that energy. So a lot is going to change, guys. A lot is going to change, and yeah, just know that it needs to change, and it's up to us how, in what direction. And I think what has been made, like, we have forgotten something because the system did not want us to know this, and that is this: that one person, just one person, is so incredibly powerful, and that one person can affect, at least energetically, so much of space, of people, and other energies around it. So one person is really significant. You, one person, is very important. How you live your life, how you clear out your psyche, your psychological patterns, how you heal, how you're more present, how you're more intuitive, how you're more energetically strong, changes so much more than anything else you have been taught that changes the world, such as money and stuff like that. Actually, one person standing in its own power can change the world. And I guess that sums up the true meaning of this solar eclipse squared Pluto.